I wish you luck in realizing your ambition.
Hey everyone, it's BlueLizardJello, and welcome back to Everything Possible in Elden Ring, where we are here, finally, at the Roundtable Hold. And just to refresh your memory, we got here because we traveled via Waygate, thanks to D giving us some directions, to go see Grrreat at the Bestial Sanctum. Now, because the Bestial Sanctum is located outside of Limgrave, if we rest at a site of grace, then Melina will appear and offer to take us to Roundtable Hold. Now, I incorrectly said we had no choice in the matter, but turns out From Software just didn't show you the obvious way out, which is to simply back out of her dialogue using the back button, which typically is the circle or the B button on your controller. Not sure what it is on your keyboard. And that will allow you to continue, and then she'll just appear the next time you rest at a site of grace asking you the same thing. You can also get to the Roundtable Hold if you approach Stormveil Castle and you interact with the very first boss there. Now, whether you win or lose, the next time you rest at a site of grace, she will appear and take you, again, offer to take you here to Roundtable Hold. So, we have a lot to do here before we move on with the next part of the adventure, so let's go ahead and take a look at all the wonderful NPCs around us, only after we take a look at my stats and what I'm currently using. Here are my stats. If you want to know any more, just go ahead and pause the video now. For gear, this will change a little bit once we get to a merchant here in a moment, but we have the Lordsworn's Greatsword still using the Impaling Thrust. That's going to come in very handy with many of the strong enemies to come. We also have the Clawmark Seal with the Cinquedea. This is going to boost the power of our bestial incantations. Both of these will. So I'm going to be using the one incantation that we got from Grrreat after we fed him a death root. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it can be a little bit of fun. I also got the Sun Realm Shield. This one is such a fascinating shield, and not too many people have actually seen this. It's not that difficult to come by. The spot that I farmed, and I'll show you the site of grace on the map here, was just outside of where we fought the Tibia Mariner. There are a few skeletons that come out of the ground there at the graveyard, and if they're holding a shield, they can drop this Sun Realm Shield. Now, it's nothing amazing. It is nothing to write home about. The physical negation is only 86. The guard boost is only 48, and it weighs 3.5. Compare this to the Heater Shield or the Beast Crest Heater Shield at the same weight, and it beats it in almost every stat. However, it is really interesting in its depiction. Take a look at the image on the shield itself, and it talks about a city crowned by the sun that has seen better days. The seat of the sun is long faded away. So go ahead and make your own comments down below as to what you think that's referring to. But I think there's a strong case, or at least a hopeful case, that that may be referring to Anne Orlando. But that could be just me. So I'm using it simply because it looks really cool. I do have some fire arrows equipped. Notice I don't have a bow. We'll be changing that up here soon. For armor, because of how much gear I'm trying to use, all I can wear right now is the Vagabond Knight armor, which has been altered, and the Aristocrat boots. I have the Assassin's Crimson Dagger as my talisman, so I can get some healing back on criticals. I have my Flask of Crimson Tears and Cerulean Tears, but notice I've reallocated a little bit. I now only have 2 healing and 3 FP restoration flasks, and that is because, as I mentioned very early on, we're actually going to be focused a little bit more on using healing incantations than we are focusing on healing flasks, because you actually get a bigger bang for your buck using it this way due to the low FP cost. I do have some fire grease. We'll be using some other consumables as we go. And the only spell that I have equipped right now is the Bestial Sling. Let me just show that off here. You can see Bestial Sling is the only one. We'll be changing that up here in a little bit. So let's go around the room and let's meet all the NPCs. A lot of dialogue to go through, so I will have timestamps in here if you just want to skip this and get to the meat and the potatoes. That is the action later on. I don't know how far we'll get just because of how long we're going to spend here. But first, let's talk to Brother Corhyn.
Oh, I see you've just arrived. Welcome to the Roundtable Hold. I'm Corhyn, a man of the cloth. I teach incantations, the strength granted us by the 2 fingers, and explore the secrets of the Golden Order, so that one day, if a tarnished of the Roundtable Hold should become Elden Lord, I might counsel them, ensuring order regains its proper form, righting rule over men. By the way, do you still see it? The guidance of grace.
Now, we do see the guidance of grace because that is what is emanating off of the sites of grace that we've been finding. Now, if you tell him that you don't, it's not a big deal. He just won't teach you incantations now, and in fact, let's go ahead and do that.
Ah, well, that is unfortunate, but no cause for despair. It's likely a temporary condition, I'm told. For whatever reason, it happens from time to time. Just keep your chin up and stay the path. I pray the great guidance of grace returns to you.
And if we talk to him again...
What is it? Has the guidance of grace returned to your vision?
We can then tell him, yes, I do see it now.
You do? Wonderful news. Most tarnished are blind to it these days. You are something of a rare breed. Well, what do you say? Care to learn an incantation of the two fingers?
So he is talking about the two fingers, and we just got the prayer gesture. So Corhyn believes in the two fingers, and he follows the golden order. And this can be seen actually by the symbol of the two fingers that you can see hanging around this wheel that is around his neck. So that is not a separate item. That's actually part of the Corhyn's robes. So part of his quote-unquote armor that you can get later on if you follow his quest or if you kill him. However, you can't kill him here. You can't kill anyone here as of right now, and I'll show you that there's a symbol on screen to indicate that. Anytime that symbol is on screen, you won't be able to do really any action that could potentially injure any of the characters that are there. Now, as we talk to him more and more as the game goes on, he's going to talk even more about the Golden Order, which is the most widespread philosophical and theological movement in the land between, and Queen Marika is the figurehead. Now let's see what he has to offer us currently. If you wanted to purchase all of these incantations, all 8 of them, it will cost you 12,900 runes. The nice thing is, with his starting incantations, they all require 12 or fewer faith points, which is really, really nice. So it can be used extremely early, just about with any class. And some of these are absolutely worth having. Now, if you take a look at them, they look a little bit different, but also if you go into the description, it's going to talk about where these incantations come from. The Two Fingers Faithful, or you also have the Sinister Prophecy. They do have different origins. Now, the first 6 incantations, so all of these right here, these are going to be belong to the Two Fingers Faithful, while the other 2 are from a Sinister Prophecy. These 2 are considered Fire Monks prophecies. We haven't talked or seen anything about Fire Monks. That's going to be coming up. But from the incantations, Fire Deadly Sin, which again, much later on, it talks about how the prophet despaired looking up to the Erd Tree, for soon the kindling would burst into flame, bringing ruin. That is the Sinister Prophecy that these are referring to. There are ties to giant Fire Monks prophecies, threats to godhood, and that is only scratching the surface. So more to come as we uncover more. So let's talk about the various incantations though. You have Urgent Heal. Urgent Heal takes 16 FP to cast. It will heal the caster for 1.15 times whatever the faith-based incantation scaling on the seal is. It is quick, and it can be also used in motion. Heal is a better form of Urgent Heal. It does take double the FP, so 32 FP. It will heal for 2.3 times the Faith Incantation scaling of the seal on the person that's actually casting, but it also will heal for 1.15 that same scaling for everyone around, all of your allies. It is slower than Urgent Heal, so if it is something that's dire, Urgent Heal or your Crimson Flask is going to be much better. Now, you can hold onto it to delay the activation, which can be really helpful if you're doing co-op and your allies are somewhere else and they're all low. You can charge it. Well, I shouldn't say charge because it doesn't increase its potency, but you can hold on to it until they get nearby and then release it. Cure Poison, 7 FP to cast, does exactly what you would think. It will cure poison and poison buildup. Magic Fortification, 20 FP to cast, and it will add 35% magic damage negation for 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds. Flame Fortification, same thing, except this time this is for fire. Rejection, 9 FP to cast. It can be charged or it can be chain cast, so charging will increase the size, or you can just do it one after another. It doesn't deal any damage. It will knock back light enemies. It can deal stance or stagger damage to bigger enemies, however. And then the last 2, Catch Flame and Flame Sling. You have Catch Flame, which is 10 FP. It is very fast to cast. It can be chain cast one after another, and it is a melee range flame burst incantation, so dealing fire damage up close. And Flame Sling, 11 FP to cast, medium speed, so not super fast. It can be charged, however, to go even further and for a bigger explosion dealing damage in a bit of an area of effect. So out of these that we have available, I am going to be purchasing Heal, and I'm also going to be purchasing Catch Flame. Now you might be saying, but Blue, you only have 2 total spell slots and only one of them is free. Fortunately, for the mere cost of 3,000 runes, we'll be able to increase that here in just a little bit.
May the Golden Order shine through you.
Next up, we have D. We've talked to him before, but now that he's here, let's see what he has to say.
You've met Grrreat, I take it. Then owing to our duties shared, we are now comrades in arms. I think you've earned this. The power of the Golden Order to aid the hunt of those who live in death.
So, just like Corhyn, D is also serving the Golden Order, and because we have met Grrreat, he is now going to also offer us some incantations. Only 2, and we'll be talking to him in a moment, but let's take a look at these 2 that he has to offer. Litany of Proper Death and the Order's Blade, one of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists used by hunters of those who live in death. So the Litany of Proper Death, it takes 17 FP in order to cast. It does require, however, 17 Faith and Intelligence, so it'll be a little bit before we can use this. This will deal holy damage in a rather large area of effect. But not only is it holy damage, like the holy pots that we saw against the Deathbird, this is going to deal extra damage to those who live in death. So those who have that moniker, this will deal bonus damage. Really, really nice. And then Order's Blade, 22 FP to cast, 13 Intelligence and Faith, so not too much of a requirement. It'll add holy buff to melee weapon, but also just like the Litany of Proper Death or the Holy Pots, this will deal extra damage to those who live in death. Now, how much damage you're going to get is based on your Faith incantation scaling on your seal. It'll be 0.75 times whatever that scaling is, added as holy damage for 90 seconds, a minute and a half. Let's see what else he has to say though.
I serve the Golden Order, that I might put this crooked land to rights, following only the guidance of the great Elden Ring. Those who live in death fall outside the principles of the Golden Order. Their mere existence sullies the guidance of gold, tainting its truth. And so it is the vermin must be exterminated, down to the very last.
He's not a big fan of those who live in death. Understandably so. Next up, we have, well, I'll just let him say his name because I'm not sure I believe him.
Ah, hello. You must be new here. Well, just call me Diallos. The honor of one's house holds little import in these lands. By the way, have you met a young woman named Lanya on your travels? She's my servant, but fickle as the wind. Take your eyes off her for but a moment and she's good as gone. If you find her, please be sure to tell me.
Not a whole lot to say here. He's looking for someone named Lanya. What I will say right now though is that he is of the House Hoslow. He has an older brother and he's really into blood, but also he has some really, really cool looking armor. Up here on this balcony, there is nothing really to see or do except potentially to jump down. And I've been debating, and I think we actually will do that. For those of you who know, there is an invader down there who can be very difficult, even once you start to put on some levels, unless you know just how weak they are to stagger and bleed. And I'm going to show you an extremely easy and effective way to take out that invader here in just a little bit. But moving right along, so this is new as of patch, I believe it's 1.08, the Coliseum update. This statue of Marika is the Coliseum statue. Now I am offline, so there's really nothing that I can do right now. But provided you are playing online and you have actually reached one of or all of the 3 Coliseums that are spread throughout the world, you can use this statue to engage in PvP. And even though I haven't done it myself, I have learned that the statue works as follows. You can use this to engage in PvP in the Limgrave, Kale, or the Leyndell, also known as the Royal Coliseums. The locations all become available once you have physically reached their location, you've entered the Coliseum, and you've interacted with the statue of Marika that's inside that respective Coliseum. they do offer different types of combat. The Limgrave Coliseum we've actually already seen before. That is just north of the War Master Shack where we bought all of our Ashes of War. But that Limgrave Coliseum allows for united combat, which is teams of 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3, or combat ordeal, which is pretty much every tarnished out for themselves. Both of these PvP types allow for respawns. Both of these allow for one single flask, so whether that's healing or your FP restoration, but those flasks can be replenished once if you kill an enemy. You also get one use of your Flask of Wondrous Physic. Those are replenished when you have respawned. The Royal Coliseum, which is located in the capital Leyndell, it offers duel mode. This is 1 versus 1 with no respawning. There's no heals, there's also no Flasks of Wondrous Physics. The Kale Coliseum offers all 3 of those types, United Combat, Combat Ordeal, and Duels, but it also offers the ability to use Spirit Ashes alongside during those fights, which I just think sounds like pandemonium and a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing. So that is the Coliseum statue here in the Roundtable Hold. Next up, we have Gideon Olfnir. Oh, Gideon.
Oh, this is a rare occasion. I can't remember the last time a new tarnished made their way to the Round Table. Very well. As your senior, I bid you welcome. It is safe here. You may let down your guard. Allow me a word of advice. As your senior, you are a mere visitor to the Round Table. Nothing more. A house guest. Yet to earn their keep. Remember your place, newcomer.
Not a lot to say. Isn't too terribly fond of us. He has a really cool scepter, and he is known as the All-Knowing, sometimes known as the All-Seeing. And remember when we were invaded by Recusant Henricus just outside of the Limgrave Coliseum, and I had mentioned something about his eye surcoat that he was wearing and how we may be a spy for someone who is all-knowing and all-seeing? This is who I was referring to, and he has a bit of a cryptic one. You can actually see the eye symbol right in the center of his chest there. We'll be talking more about him for sure, but actually as we rest here in Roundtable Hold, he will move locations and we'll be able to get even more dialogue. Not a whole lot, but a bit more. Next up, this door is not going to open until we have gotten our very first great rune from taking out one of the demigods that is holding one, so it's going to be some time before that. This ward table in the center of the room, this will function as a Site of Grace, and you can do everything here that a Site of Grace normally would. In fact, let's do so just to get him to move. And might as well not forget to put on our heal there. So he has now moved. So moving right along, so next to Brother Corhyn, we have this little side passage. These doors, and I should have shown this off before, these will be shut if you haven't already talked to Gideon Olfnir, and then rested. Once you've done that, he will move to his study, and he will begin reading his books. Meanwhile, he has a good friend over here. Really charming individual. And talking to him, and I use that term loosely, will get you the what do you want gesture. This is Ensha. We'll be on the lookout for him after some time. Let's go talk to Gideon Olfnir, though, now that he's moved, and he might have a little more to say.
What do you need? I have little time to spare. Oh, are you aggrieved at the notion you are but a visitant here? Then you would do well to remember the first words of grace given to you. Stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord. If those words held any meaning to you, follow the guidance of grace. Lay low the shard bearers and claim for yourself a great rune. Do so, and the doors to the Round Table's inner chamber will open, and you will receive the wisdom of the two fingers.
It's all about those two fingers. By the way, that symbol on the left-hand side of the screen right in the center, that is a symbol indicating that I cannot do any sort of combat. So here I am trying to swing, I can't do any sort of magic attacks, I can't block, nothing. At least not right now. There may be times where that symbol goes away, but you'll see what happens when that time comes. Straight ahead, this door is not going to open for some time. However, over here, we do have a merchant. We have the twin Maiden Husks. I mentioned them a little while ago because if you kill NPCs and they drop a bell bearing, you can turn in your bell bearing here to the Twin Maiden Husks, and then whatever that previous NPC was selling will now be sold by the Twin Maiden Husk. So with the merchants that are scattered around, the nomadic merchants, some people, I won't name names or shames, they will actually go and kill all the merchants so everything's available in one spot. And I understand their point, however, I seem to still have a soul. The Twin Maiden Husk does offer a number of things, however, even without giving them a bell bearing. Rune arcs, we haven't talked about them because we haven't seen them. You can get these at a low drop rate percentage from rats. Right now it's not going to do a whole lot because we don't have any great runes, but it will give you a slight boost to your HP if you use one now. I don't recommend it simply because they're expensive. Then you have the cipher rings, the white cipher ring and the blue cipher ring. You can see exactly what they do here. When invaded, request the aid of a hunter. So if an invader comes in and you use the white cipher ring, it will look for someone to help. The blue cipher ring, you will actually be on the summoning end of that request, so you can go in and come to someone's rescue. Memory stones, these are extremely useful because if you're going to use spells, every time you get a memory stone, it will increase the number of spells that you can carry by 1. For 3,000 runes, we are certainly going to be picking this up, but first, it is said to be a fragment of the Black Moon that once hung above the Eternal City. There's actually a spell we can get later on called the Dark Moon, but it'll be some time before we pick that up. She does sell some stone sword keys, I guess I should say there are 2 of them. They sell 3 of them at 4,000 runes apiece. This is not a very good price for these, and while I'm tempted to buy some so we can open up a certain door here in a moment, I'm going to leave them be. They also sell a dagger. I'm going to be grabbing that because it does have 130 in critical. A longsword, a rapier, which also has 130 in critical, so arguably better than the dagger, although it does weigh a little bit more, 1.5 compared to 2.5. Scimitar, battle axe, mace, short spear, longbow, absolutely grabbing that. This is going to shoot significantly further than the short bow, although based on our weight we may not be able to use this just yet. Also offers a finger seal, so this is going to be used to cast incantations. I am going to purchase this, and I will show you the difference between the claw mark seal and the finger seal in terms of the scaling. Heater shield, the knight set, also have the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror and the Host Trick Mirror. These are talismans, and when you put them on, it makes you look like something else. So you take on the appearance of a host. So if you're actually doing co-op, you can make yourself look like a host to confuse invaders, or you can switch, and as the host, you can make yourself look like a co-op partner instead of the host. So again, just to fool invaders. There are some bell bearings that we can collect throughout the game that will open up the inventory more without killing NPCs, but we'll talk about those as the time comes. Directly over, however, we have a couple more NPCs to interact with, and this fine fellow, one of the best NPCs in the game, don't at me in the comments below unless you agree. This is Blacksmith Hewg.
You're a new face. No matter, it's all the same. Lay out your arms. Let's get smithing.
Smithing Master Hewg is a creature known as a Misbegotten. The Misbegotten are probably the saddest creatures in Elden Ring history. And I'm not going to speak on them too much right now. There's actually a spot that I want to talk about that when we get to the Weeping Peninsula. But for now, I am actually going to put a link in the description, maybe even a pinned comment, that will go into the story and the lore of the Misbegotten. And you can watch it and make up your mind for yourself. But I am thoroughly convinced that they are just absolutely sad individuals. Now you can see that Hewg here is chained. He's got a shackle on and he's chained to the wall. There is some hair on here, some scales, some horns. Really interesting design, and there may be some really valid reasons for all of that. But let's ask him about the chains on his legs.
I see you've noticed the chains. Nothing special. I'm a prisoner and these are my chains. I'm trapped by the hold. I'm dying, smithing for you fools. That's all there is to it. No. Don't read too much into it. I've no grudge against you. My being a prisoner is no fault of yours. Besides, I don't mind smithing. Despite my differences, the weapons get stronger all the same. Given time, technique never fails. Besides, it helps me forget. sheer terror of her.
There's someone that he is absolutely terrified of. Possibly someone that resulted in his imprisonment. Right now, I am under the impression that that is Queen Marika herself, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. That is all that he has to say right now. He has a wonderful quest line along with Marika that we met just outside of Stormville Castle some time ago. Once she makes her way to the hold, we'll be able to talk to him quite a bit more. But in the meantime, he does offer a few things that we can do. Strengthen armament. So this is going to be our smithing option to go above +3. Remember, we could do levels 1, 2, and 3 at the Church of Ella in Limgrave. To go above that, however, we would need a better blacksmith. Here is one such blacksmith, Smithing Master Hewg. Still not doing any upgrades just yet. We can also do our changes in our Ashes of War, which I am actually going to do. I'm actually going to take the dagger that we just bought, and I think I want to put on... Yeah, we're going to put on the Stormblade because it's absolutely silly that you can put it on something as small as a dagger, but I'll take it gladly. He can also duplicate Ashes of War. So the way the Ashes of War work is, as you just saw, I cannot use the same Ash of War on more than one weapon at a time. I can remove it from a weapon and use it on another one. But if I want to use it on more than one, we need to find lost Ashes of War and then duplicate it here with Smithing Master Hewg. We can also sell here, so I think it's a good practice to occasionally just go through in terms of weapons or armor and just making sure that you're selling any duplicates. Here I have an extra shield here. We have an extra tabard, gauntlets, some greaves here. Because it's just free runes. Even though it might not be much, it is something worth doing instead of just holding on to them, taking up valuable inventory space. And that is it for Hewg. We are going to be going down there momentarily, but first we have one more NPC to talk to. And yet another truly fascinating individual.
Greetings, great champion called by grace. I am Fia. Circumstances have compelled my stay at the Roundtable hold. Great champion, would you allow me to hold you? But briefly, perhaps you might share with me some of your lively vigor and your stout-heartedness. Doing so will grant me the warmth of a champion, and you, I am sure, will bear a Baldakin's blessing. Do you think it vulgar, perhaps? Where I come from, it is a sacred act.
She actually tells us exactly what's about to happen, and yet I know that I missed it when I did this in my first playthrough. If we allow her to hold her, we're going to share our vigor with her. She's quite literally going to take 5% of our hit points away. In return, she said that we'll get a Baldakin's blessing. A baldakin, it is a ceremonial canopy made of stone, metal, or fabric that is typically over place of an altar, a throne, or a doorway. So it's a ceremonial structure, and we'll talk about the blessing here when we get it. So you don't have to do this. However, if you want to get some more dialogue from her, go ahead and let her hold you and then use the resulting consumable, which will also give you your health back.
My thanks, great champion. You are very warm.
And there is the Baldakin's blessing. You can actually even see the Baldakin in the symbol there. This consumable, it uses 10 FP to use and then it is gone forever. You will gain 50% poise, 35% damage negation, and you will resist stagger from most attacks for 15 seconds. So it's brief, but if you time it right, it actually can prove to be extremely useful. But once we've used it, we can get some more dialogue from her. So let's go ahead and do that.
What you felt light up inside you was a Baldakin's blessing. Though it is but a fleeting thing, I am afraid. Come back to me, should you require another. I will take you in my arms as often as you need.
And if we take a look at my stats now, my HP is down to 519. Now, if I use the Baldakin's blessing, I'm just going to go into my inventory and use that right here. You can read a little bit more about it. The favor allows one to forget any aches and pains. In death, there is only peace, for in death there can be no sensation. So we already have here something that came from Fia that talks about how in death there is peace. And not to get too philosophical, but there's something about Fia based on this description that doesn't quite align with some of the other NPCs here at the Roundtable Hold. Now you get this little glow around you, which definitely reminds me of the, what is that one spell from Demon Souls? The name actually escapes me. I believe it's Ward. But like I said, it only lasts 15 seconds. Once it's gone, you can see I'm now back up to 547. Well, I would have to heal back up to 547, but we've gotten our HP back. And now let's talk to her again.
I am pleased to see you again. Would you like me to hold you once more?
We're going to say yes, and then this time it's going to give us an option to talk to her in secret.
Now, come closer. You are so very warm. I was known as a deathbed companion. Where I come from, after I received the warmth and lively vigor from a number of champions, I lay with the remains of an exalted noble. To grant him another chance at life, to do so is the purpose of my being. But before I could bear the noble into new life, I was awakened by the guidance of grace and chased from my birthplace. Pray, be kind. Despite all that, I still wish to be a deathbed companion. So please, let me hold you like this, as often as it takes. Then good day to you, my dear.
So as a deathbed companion, you can say that Fia has a bit of a proclivity for nobility that may be in need desperately of some vigor, some life. And I wonder if that will play out later on. Now, before I forget, I am going to use the Baldachin's Blessing. I really have no need for it. I'd rather have the 5% HP back. So let's just go ahead and use that so we don't forget. And in the meantime, let us head downstairs. And in order to do what we're about to do, you need to have at least one stone sword key in order to access that door. One thing I do want to comment on, and this might be some of the biggest lore implication known to the entirety of Elden Ring, and that is they really love potatoes. I mean, just love potatoes. I don't know if that helps to narrow down exactly where Elden Ring takes place, but we can speculate. So we're going to use a single stone sword key to enter into this room. Stone sword key was lost with use. We can now enter. Make sure you get rid of this dialogue, even though we can't do any sort of attacking anyway. Now, why they left a fire burning inside of a room that is locked by a stone sword key is beyond me. But if we had two, this next room would only raise more questions for that very same reason. However, we need 2 stone sword keys to activate this statue. You could go up and spend 8,000 runes to buy those 2 stone sword keys from the Twin Maiden Husk. I don't recommend it, and I wanted to recommend it, but I simply couldn't bring myself to do just that. So instead, we'll be coming back for that. We do have one bit of loot here, which is inside this treasure chest. We get Crepus's black key crossbow as well as some black key bolts. Now the black key bolts, that is something you may want to hold on to until you need it desperately, because you only get 20 and they cause scarlet rot buildup, which is incredibly useful because it's a very fast acting poison. But the crossbow is a bit of a sniper crossbow. Now 47 range on a crossbow is actually pretty impressive. But if we read it, this belonged to Crepus, who served the 2 fingers from the shadows of the Roundtable as the head confessor. Why would someone as a head confessor actually need a crossbow, something that can attack from some distance away? Well, if we had 2 more stone sword keys and could get in there, we would be able to pick up the Assassin's Prayer Book, which would offer 2 different incantations if we give it to someone who can teach us incantations, like Brother Corhyn or a yet unnamed individual that we haven't met yet. But that would allow us to get darkness and Assassin's Approach. We'll talk more about those when we can actually pick them up. But something a little dark and underhanded just may be happening here at Roundtable Hold. Now, before we leave and finally see a little bit of combat before we have to wrap up, well, I guess we're about to see some, I'm going to switch weapons ever so briefly, and I'm going to actually go over to my flail. Flail has, by default, spinning chain, and that's exactly what we want. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, well, I can't two-hand it yet. I'm going to go over to the balcony, and I always get turned around here at the Roundtable Hold. But you know what? Let's be smart about this. Let's get our 5% HP back just by resting.
Hello, thank you. So what can I do for you?
Sorry, didn't mean to talk to you, D. Let's get that back, and then we are going to hop over the balcony, and as soon as we do so, we're going to two-hand our flail. I am going to use some fire grease, and we're going to approach the door just over that way, and that's where the invader is going to spawn. You can actually get a backstab if you time it right on the invader, because they foolishly are going to bow to us. And I say foolishly, that's a bit mean, but let's go ahead and hop down and begin this encounter, shall we? If you're going to fight this without any sort of strategy or cheese, be prepared for quite a difficult fight. So Tongue Alberich. And then as soon as he's done bowing, we're just going to hold down spinning chain. Got a little something there on your nose there. But we get the reverential bow. I feel so dirty doing that. We get the reverential bow from meeting this invader, and then we get the Taunter's Tongue. So this is something, if you don't need the Taunter's Tongue, which we're going to talk about here in a second, there's not a whole lot of reason to come down in this area. There is some loot over there we'll go get, but the Taunter's Tongue, it allows invasions without having a co-op partner. If you're playing online, you can do so without being invaded unless you have summoned co-op partners. If you use the Taunter's Tongue, it gets away with that requirement. You can get invaded as a solo player, but it also allows for a second invader to join that fight. So just keep in mind, you might be biting off more than you can chew if you use the Taunter's Tongue. That appears just like in caverns and caves that will bring us up to the top, but we can also fast travel. But the last thing we're going to do is right through these rooms, make our way over here. By the way, yes, the invader will find you even if you make your way back here. Over on this corpse, an item that is far more interesting than useful. And that is the Cipher Pata. What a cool looking weapon. It is a fist weapon. Let's go ahead and put it on here, even though I won't be able to use it. Of course, I just went past it, didn't I? Yes, it is. So the Cipher Pata, it is a fist weapon. The skill is called Unblockable Blade. You can see it deals no physical damage whatsoever. It is entirely holy damage. It does require 30 faith in order to use this, one of the weapons originating from the two fingers. The furtive inscription appears to hang in the air, the language of the light spoken by the two fingers. So it tells me that I can't use it. Indeed I can't, but you can see how cool this looks. You look like a sacred Wolverine, especially when you try to two-hand it. Because instead of two-handing it, similar to the sacred blades or the ornamental blades we got by killing the grafted scion in the tutorial, we actually have a pair of them. So while it looks super cool and it sounds super cool, I have heard from some people that tried to do a faith-only build and the damage is just nothing impressive. The Unblockable Blade skill, however, you will actually perform a piercing attack that cannot be blocked, much like the name would imply. Right. Well, we are actually done here in Roundtable Hold, finally, so I'm going to go back to my Lord Sorin's Greatsword, and we are finally going to make our way to Sellen. We're not going to Sellen to actually talk to Sellen, we are simply going there because I want to start there, and the name of the game is going to be this area right here. We are going to Mistwood. How much we're actually going to get done in the short time we have left, I'm not sure, but this is where we're going to be starting after we visit the Waypoint Ruins cellar. Now we do also have quite a number of runes on me, and I'm not going to use any of the consumables, but I should have enough for 3 levels, indeed I do. This again, and I'm probably going to say this almost every time, don't necessarily follow this build because I don't really have much of a build in mind. I just want to show off a lot of fun things. So I'm going to go up to 13 Arcane. This will allow us to use Reduvia if we want. We're not going to use that today, but it will probably make an appearance here coming up. But I'm going to be keeping my Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane fairly straight across the board so we can use a variety of spells. And of course our melee stats will have to follow suit as well. Oh, nearly forgot though, we did pick up that extra memory stone, so I'm going to memorize my spell and I'm going to put on the Cast Flame. And we did say we were going to take a quick look at the scaling. So notice the incantation scaling of the Clawmark Seal is 107. However, we also know from the description here that this allows incantations to be scaled with strength. When I was talking about the incantations of the healing incantations, I specifically said only the faith portion, meaning it's a bit misleading to say that this Clawmark Seal has a scaling of 107 when it's actually going to be less than that based on the fact that it has split strength and faith scaling. The Finger Seal, however, is 100% faith scaling and it's 110 incantation scaling. So while this is going to do better for the bestial incantations, the Finger Seal will certainly do a better job for healing. Now I have run a couple of very simple tests with the heal incantation that we just picked up recently, and I wanted to find out exactly how much of this 107 incantation scaling on the Clawmark Seal comes from faith and how much comes from strength, and it does seem like it is very minimal strength scaling. So when I did the test and I healed myself as it currently stands with my current stats, with the Clawmark Seal, I got 237 hit points, which equals 103 faith scaling, meaning only 4 points of the current scaling comes from strength. And then with the Finger Seal, just to test that, I got 254 hit points received back, which did equal the full 110 incantation scaling. So in terms of healing, yes, the Finger Seal is going to do better, but the Clawmark Seal is going to do significantly better with our bestial incantations, and really a rather small loss in healing. So for now, at least, I'll just be using the Clawmark Seal as my seal of choice. A couple other things that we need to do before we set off. Number one, I actually went to the wrong side of Grace first. I actually meant to go to the first step where Whiteface Varre is waiting for us because he has a little bit more info for us now that we have visited Roundtable Hold. Soon.
Oh, well done. Well done indeed. You made it through that entire mess all the way to Stormvale. And off you trotted to the Roundtable Hold. My sincerest congratulations. But how did you find the Roundtable? Oh, you don't have to say it. Before, the Round Table was chock full of venerated warriors, but now it's home to puff chests and has-beens. I fear you've been terribly disappointed. I don't blame you. But still, the Round Table has its perks. Why not earn a seat? Fly straight and true, so to speak.
This will have no bearing on the story whatsoever, so I'm just going to tell him I don't need a seat.
Yes, I see. Perhaps it's just as well. Besides, you are maidenless. One can only do so much with the materials provided. But then again, if you should realize the error of your ways, I'm always willing to hear you out. Oh. Have you decided to have a go after all? At joining the Round Table proper? Ah, then you're interested. A wise choice indeed. To join the Round Table proper, you must acquire a great rune and request audience with the Two Fingers in the inner chamber. They are the purported masters of the grace that guides your kind, the Tarnished. Yes. Pay them a visit, so that you may see for yourself. Challenge Godric the Grafted, Lord of Stormvale, to acquire a great rune. Decrepit he may be, but a demigod he remains. And of course, an inheritor
of a great rune. Worse yet, I hear old Godric's acquired a ferocious new toy to graft. So, prepare for the worst.
So we get a few more details here from Varre that we didn't get from Gideon Olfnir. We know that we need to get a Great Rune in order to find a seat at the Roundtable Hold, but we actually get some more information on exactly where to obtain what is likely going to be our first Great Rune, and that is in Stormveil Castle from Godric the Grafted. Now before we go back to Sellen, I just want to finish our loadout. We are going to put on that dagger, the one that we have equipped with the Stormblade Ash of War. And then I'm going to put on a bow, which unfortunately I won't be able to use the longbow that I just got simply because it puts me just into heavy load, but I can use the short bow since it is a 1.5 weight difference between the two of them, and that should do it. I'm going to get rid of these black key bolts. I don't want to accidentally use them, and I think we're ready to go. So let's head back to Sellen at the Waypoint Ruins. And I do just want to make sure that it is daytime. So it is morning. That'll actually work. I won't wait till noon. We don't have anything new to say to Sellen. And for now, we are just going to start making our way. We are going to hop on Torrent and start taking some shortcuts here. Around the Miranda Blooms, of course. No real reason to fight them. Speaking of no real reason to fight them, we have this entire caravan, but also we are going to be seeing numerous rune bears, and I am going to show you at least one fight. I did show it, I believe, in the last episode, how you can effectively take them out with sleep pots, but today we're mostly going to be just relying on sleep pots just to put them to rest. I'm going to two-hand the greatsword while I get on Torrent. That way I can focus on actually wielding this weapon. Now be weary of any sort of soldiers, foot soldiers or otherwise, with spears against Torrent, because when you approach them, I'd actually like to do so and show this off without the Caden Warrior's involvement. He's going to turn around. There we go. When we get close, they actually take this perfect defensive position against cavalry, which is pretty impressive that they do that. And it will do some significant damage to you while you're on Torrent. So I'm just going to take care of the other soldiers around them, leave the others. Now we're going to veer off the main path. Just over here, we do have one single item on top of this ruin here. But when you see an item just like this in the middle of nowhere, rest assured, most often, yeah, it's just going to be an ambush. So Golden Rune level 1. Let's take care of some demi-humans here. I was going to say a trio of 4, but I don't think that that is the correct nomenclature. So a quartet of demi-humans will appear. That shield break, they don't drop anything, fine and dandy. So we're going to keep pushing. So just over there, just in case you need to orient yourself, that is the Artist Shack. So we got that first painting quite a while ago. This area upcoming is fairly devoid of items, to be truthful with you. There are some crafting materials that you can collect, and there is a Site of Grace we're going to be grabbing here. You can see the Guidance of Grace straight ahead. A few sheep, a few of these aristocrats just wandering about, nothing too dangerous. But we do have an upcoming NPC, and look, you can already see a bear, a rune bear, off in the distance there. But tell you what, let's go and have a little fun here. We're going to be taking out the demi-humans underneath this archway, but first, we already heard him in the last episode. We have the great Kenneth Haight. And I say that with dismay and disdain. Both are appropriate feelings for this individual.
Someone who might be interested in rescuing the great Kenneth Haight, servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator of the false. Oh, Erdtree, grant me succor.
Anyone who rolls their R's like that in actual casual conversation, I don't think we would be friends on Facebook.
Hello? You've come to lend me your aid, have you? Well, that's very kind, but, No, the help is very much appreciated, even from a tarnished. Despite appearances, nobility is no prerequisite to serving the true order. You might have heard of me, Kenneth Haight. Next in line is the rightful ruler of Limgrave, young Tarnished. I would have a boon of you. I want you to take back my fort. It lies to the south, beyond the Mistwood. A knight commander from Stormvale took it. A fool! And plumb mad to boot. Simply obsessed with blood. What are you waiting for? A kiss goodbye? My fort lies to the south, beyond the Mistwood. Take it back for me. Oh, I see. You wish to know the reward. Fret not. The great Kenneth Haight is known for his considerable largesse. The celebrations will be lavish indeed upon the dawn of my fort's retrieval. Yes, now allow me to furnish you with a little advice. I would take great care to avoid Godric's tarnished hunts were I in your shoes. That depraved lot are obsessed with sacrificing tarnished like you for the sake of grafting. Honestly, Godric's nothing more than a jumped-up country bumpkin. Lord? Oh, don't make me laugh. First, he hid himself amongst the womenfolk to flee the capital, then hid from Radahn in that castle. Then he insulted Melania, lost to her in battle, only to lick her boots rather than die like a man. Has he no shame, the big girl's blouse? And to think, he's the blood of Godfrey, last of the golden lineage. Though you almost wouldn't know it to look at him. Yeah, I almost feel sorry for the chap the more I think of it.
He gives us a whole lot of information of Godric. So he is of the lineage of Godfrey. He also fled the capital, actually disguised himself among the womenfolk. He lost to Melania, only to then, as he said, lick her boots instead of dying to her in battle. He calls him a country bumpkin, which is something I haven't heard in too many other From Software games. But Kenneth Haight is asking us to take back his fort that has been overcome and actually is now being held by someone who is quite interested in blood in southern Mistwood. You can see that is a minor Erdtree right there. We're going to make our way there. This is the only minor Erdtree that is actually safe in all of Limgrave, because it is not guarded by an Erdtree avatar as all the other ones are. Now, Kenneth Haight would not really approve of what we're about to do, but we are going to play around with our Bestial Sling just a little bit and just take care of some of these demi-humans. So I'm going to get my Cinquedea out, that way we get the boost. And Bestial Sling, I've mentioned it before, and I think I've even shown it off. It is kind of like a shotgun. If you do it from range, you can see the spread is pretty distinct, and if you are actually spreading that far, then you're not going to be doing nearly as much damage because of all the different projectiles. What I do like about it though, it is very fast casting, and you can even sprint and then use it, which can be extremely beneficial. It is rather cheap to cast. You can chain it. I'll just kill you with my Cinquedea here. Now I am going to have to use my Cerulean Tears. I'm not really going to be using this spell in a serious manner simply because it's not very good, even with the boost from the Cinquedea. Let's let you do your thing, then I'm just going to chain attack. There we go. Okay, grab some rune fragments. There are a few more under there. We did get our flask back. Just under the archway where Kenneth is, luckily he stops talking now that we've addressed him, we do have another magic grease. And let's kill a few more demi-humans. You can see it's actually not terrible. However, really its utility for you is going to depend severely on how much you actually invest in the bestial incantations. So, is this the most effective way to take these out? Absolutely not. Is it kind of fun? Yeah, it's not terrible. But we get another flask recharge. We are going to be heading down to the Third Church of Marika here in a moment in order to rest up. But I did want to start here. Let's actually get off the beaten path. There is that one troll there. We don't really have a need to take him out. If you do need to have a flask recharge, you can do so here with that Crimson Teardrop Scarab. I do not have the need for that, so I'm just going to go back over to this side of Grace. I'm going to rest up. There is an owl here if you need it. Slumbering eggs are really not something we are struggling for, though. So remember, in Third Church of Marika, this is where we actually got our Flask of Wondrous Physics some time ago. And now we're just going to switch back over to our Lord Sorin's Greatsword. In fact, let's get our shield out just because it looks so cool on our back. And we are going to be getting... Actually, the first thing that I want to do is go to the beach. There's one item out there. Nothing too terribly important, but since this is everything possible, we are trying to get all the shinies. So we're just going to ride on past a few crabs here. No real need to take them all out, especially because they don't give us anything of importance, not anything that we won't already have plenty of in the meantime. So riding past everything. We do have some Guillemots, which we could use to try and farm some foul feed, which is not a bad idea because I'm actually out of them currently. What do you got for me? And how about a nice charge R2? There we go. Grab the crab eggs, and on this corpse we get 3 strips of white flesh. Like I said, absolutely necessary? No. But that's kind of the name of the game in Elden Ring. Not everything is absolutely necessary. In fact, many things are not. You know, let's actually try and kill a couple of these. Okay, so we got 1 drop. Were we lucky? We were indeed. Yeah. Oop. Didn't mean to hop off there. So next we're going to be hunting just a single Trina's Lily. And that is going to be kind of just south of where Kenneth was. It's going to be up in these rocks, actually. So let's head back to the main path. Just because those Trina's Lilies are finally going to start getting some use here. So over by this bear. Actually, it's over by that owl over there. We're going to ignore most of the enemies in this area. The bears, they're not too difficult, and we can actually get some good drops. But if you can spot this owl just here, there's the single Trina's Lily. Oh, that bear is quite persistent. Now we are going to go back to the main path. The Mistwood, there's not a whole lot just in the middle of nowhere, but there are a few items that we do want to collect. Now this little totem right here, we're going to find these only a handful of times throughout the whole game. They will always lead you to some place of interest, whether it's a ruin, whether it's a cave or a cavern. So what you do is you activate it, a ghost will appear, and then you can simply follow him to where they intend you to go. So we're going to follow him a little bit. We won't actually go the entire way. But let's take care of you. There we go. No drops. So we do have a familiar looking location. If you remember quite some time ago when Patches sent us through the trap chest, we came in here. We actually ended up over by those, actually we ended up right by this bear right here, and then we got the map fragment. We did not get what that bear is guarding. We did get some of the gold fireflies over in that pond, but we didn't grab the other shinies that were there. So we are going to deal with that. I'm actually going to avoid it for now though, because there's something else that I want to show off. Now over here, this building, we're not going to be taking the elevator down just yet, but inside here, there is a very long, very impressive elevator down, and make sure you're paying attention on the way down, unlike what I did in my first playthrough, because it's an absolutely gorgeous sight. But the Shiafra River Well is an area that we don't have any real need to go to just yet, so we are going to hold off. So you can see the footprints are still traveling that way. We'll try and catch up with them in a minute, but first, we're actually going to go above all these rocks to the Minor Erdtree. The Minor Erdtree is absolutely surrounded, this one in particular, by teardrop scarabs, which will refill all your flasks, and something like 20 plus of these tarnished golden sunflowers. So I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't just do a quick loop collecting as many as I can just for now. Probably going to miss one or two, but that's okay. You can see you can just get so many so very quickly. Oh, there's another one over there. But even more important is right here in this little basin, we get the Spiked Cracked tier and the Green Spill Crystal tier. Those are 2 more tiers for our Flask of Wondrous Physics. The Spiked Cracked Crystal tier is going to give us 15% charged attack damage for 3 minutes, and the Green Spill gives us 15% maximum stamina for 3 minutes. Now the Spiked Cracked, that gives us the bonus to our charge attacks. That is going to prove very nice in conjunction with a certain talisman that we will be picking up here rather soon. We do have a demi-human ambush right over here, but we also have this teardrop scarab, and this one's going to give us a new Ash of War. So let's try and chase him down. And there we have it. And we get the Ash of War Ground Slam, a really, really fun Ash of War to use, although it does have better versions that we can pick up later on. But let's take a look at this one. The Ash of War Ground Slam will grant the heavy affinity, just like all the other ones in this row. It is usable on all melee armaments, and as you can see here, you jump up high into the air and crash down on the ground ahead. The resulting pratfall sends a powerful shockwave in all directions. Now, while this Ash of War does create an area of effect that deals about 15 stance or stagger damage to enemies nearby, if you land a direct hit, you will do that on top of the 30 stagger damage directly onto that one target. So potentially staggering enemies fairly easily, which is really, really fun to do. But also you get a high poise modifier, meaning you're unlikely to be knocked out of this animation once you've cast it. I am absolutely sure we'll be able to put that into play sooner rather than later. Right, so let's take care of this demi-human ambush. So there's actually a shiny on the path just below here. So the intention is you would just go down there in order to get that. But first, instead of these all just dropping down on me, notice I just got some health back, even though I didn't need it because I have the Assassin's Crimson Dagger on. There we have it. So we've dealt with that. Now, by now, unfortunately, I'm sure that ghost that we were following has long since dissipated. So we're going to go deal with those rune bears here in a moment. But first, just for fun, since we got the dagger, let's go ahead and get a backstab on here, and you'll watch our health go up because of it. Beautiful way to stay topped off. Here we have some thin beast bones. Over to the right, we do have some man bats. So let's go deal with them. That howling, that is not an enemy. We'll deal with that here in a bit. Now, we don't have any good way of bringing them down. You know what, just for fun, I want to actually try to use Bestial Sling on them. Not sure how well this will work. Well, it's not terrible. Could be worse. Especially since we can chain it. There we go. And over here, we just grab ourselves a golden rune. Here's a golden skull. Should absolutely pick up. But straight ahead, these ruins, this is what the ghost was leading us towards. And that's actually the source of the howling as well. If we actually get outside of these trees and look up towards the center tower, you can just see him there. Let's get our telescope out. Now at this point, now that we've heard that howling, if we go back to the Church of Ella and speak to Kale, he will have some new dialogue for us and we'll get a new gesture. And we are going to be doing that, just not right at this moment. So we're going to be dealing with rune bears, as I said, but we're not going to be killing all of them. What I want to do is I want to craft some sleep pots. Now I only have 2 crack pots available because I have some fire pots made. Now, what you can do is you can throw these fire pots, which would of course waste the consumables or waste the ingredients that you used to make them, but that will free up the pots in order to make more sleep pots. The other thing you can do, which I could only do if I had a Site of Grace, I can store my fire pots, which would actually free up all of the pots available to make more sleep pots, but it would also store the fire pots. Now, you can't then take the fire pots out because it's still using the same container, so the game does know that they're in there, but when I'm done using my sleep pots, I can then go and retrieve my fire pots without having to create new ones. And I'll try to remember to show that off when we get to the southern Site of Grace. But I'm going to make a couple of sleep pots, make sure I get them on my hotbar, because we do have one rune bear that we are going to deal with here. So let's get this out. And I will actually use my Flask of Cerulean Tears. So we have a number of Trina's Lilies. There's the bear. So what I want to do is I want to see if I can get... I'm trying to think if I should attack him first or do a sleep pot. I think I'll just do a sleep pot right away, which will open him up for a critical. And I'm actually going to try... I'm probably going to do less damage with the dagger overall, despite having a higher critical modifier. But we'll try it out. Meanwhile, let's grab some Trina's Lilies. So wait till he goes to sleep to actually use some fire grease. Although that's probably a waste. And what kind of damage do we do? Okay, not terrible. But now I need to make sure I don't die here. We're going to do some impaling thrusts. There's one. Okay. There's 2. Oh, and he got me. Thought I was outside of that range. Unfortunately, he's getting all of his stagger damage back. And this could be a problem. Heal up. This is not nearly going according to plan, but that's because I deviated from the plan, which I should never do. Okay, Impaling Thrust. That absolutely ludicrous. Okay, one more ought to knock him down, I believe. There we go. So quickly get in front. Missed the critical, unfortunately, and we're just going to sleep on him again. And he should be going to sleep here. Yes, he is. Well, this is why we don't tend to fight them. I'm going to get my cerulean back. Yeah, significantly more damage with that. And I'm now out of FP, so I do have to just fight him kind of the old-fashioned way. There's the knockdown. And there we have it. Don't fight rune bears. Really and truly, it's just not worth it. If you need what they have, then just fight the regular bears. You'll be much, much better off for it. So inside this chest, inside the tower, we have a smithing stone level 2. But because this is technically a ruins, let's grab the rest of these Trina's lilies. Down in the basement, there is always going to be a basement area. And we have another chest, fortunately not trapped this time, and we get the Axe Talisman. This is the talisman that will stack really well with that spiked crystal tier because this one will give you enhanced charge attacks. Specifically, this will give you 10% increased damage to your charge attacks. Now this is stacked multiplicatively with the spiked crystal tier, so you'll be dealing significant charge damage if you use the Axe Talisman as well as that spiked crystal tier. We will be using that at some point, but today is not that day. Now we do still have to return back to those other rune bears, but first, over in the corner, let's make sure we grab ourselves a golden rune level 2. And now, we are going to be heading back to dealing with those rune bears, but I am not going to be dealing with them in any meaningful way. So we actually need to go north here, because I have zero interest in fighting them. As you can see, I still have very little confidence in my ability to do so. And probably rightfully so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put them to sleep. They do sleep for quite some time. So I need to craft a couple more of these. Make sure we have them at the ready. And the goal is we're going to put this one to sleep, we're going to go down, and then we're going to talk about this item, and then we'll put yet another one to sleep, and then craft another sleep pod. So, sleep pod away. Let him go to sleep. There we have it. And he was guarding the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook number 4. This is going to allow us to create fetid pots as well as roped fetid pots. Now, fetid pots and the roped fetid pots are going to deal deadly poison buildup on enemies. Deadly poison is, well, stronger than regular poison in that it deals more damage over a shorter period of time, but because that shorter period of time is so short, you actually end up dealing less damage overall than regular poison. So if you have the choice between the two, it actually could be in your best interest to simply just use regular poison. You know, if you have that choice. Okay, let's just deal with this regular bear there. And I'm going to craft another sleep pot, because there are 2 rune bears down here. So remember, this is where we collected all of those golden fireflies before. But what I want to do is get up nice and close to this bear. Hopefully that other one is none the wiser. Please sleep. Please sleep. Okay, let's heal up. We're going to have to do this somewhat quickly. Of course, there's some gold tinged excrement. Throw the sleep pot at that one. Golden rune level 5. I don't even care about that bear. Let's grab some throwing daggers. And we're just going to run around nice and quickly, grabbing all of these golden fireflies that we can without being hit by this regular bear. There's another one there. And let's hop on Torrent. Let's get out. And that's how I deal with rune bears when you all aren't looking. So while we're here, there is another rune bear over to the west, and there is actually a talisman that we need to go create. So even though we've kind of gotten off the beaten path quite a bit, even though he just roared. He doesn't actually see us. We're going to be heading over to the west, so over towards where, well, pretty much the other part of Limgrave was. We don't need to go up onto those cliffs, but what we wanted to do was actually just follow these rock formations here, because we do have this little rune bear area where he clearly killed a couple of demi-humans. Just grab some glass shard and mushroom. Actually, those items will change, but he did kill them, so it's kind of randomized based on what drops the demi-humans can provide. And now we want to get up here. We can do so just by jumping up with Torrent. There are a number of skeletons. There are a number of Miranda blooms. Now, I don't believe I actually have any holy pots to use. Correction, I do. I have 3 of them. So, we can deal with those. I am not going to be fighting the Miranda blooms because that is another enemy that I just deem completely unworthy of my time. There we have it. So those are dead. Again, we're going to leave all the Miranda blooms alone, but I do want to grab the sacrificial twig. Now remember, Patches did offer to sell us one of these, and it is a consumable talisman. So this is something you have to have in your talisman slot, but it will be lost on death in place of runes. In other words, if you die, you will not drop your runes. I would argue, however, that it is more beneficial, and I'm just going to heal in the meantime, more beneficial not to put it on simply not to drop your runes, but rather to use it after you've already died and dropped your runes, and you can use it on your way back to said runes, essentially giving you another chance to get those runes without fear of losing them. In other words, how it works is when you die and you drop your runes, so this Spirit Spring will just bring us into Limgrave, which we have been to before, and there's really no other items up here except some crafting materials. So I'm going to go back to the main path here. To have a few wolves that are just patrolling. But if you die and you drop your runes, if you die again on your way to your runes, as we all know, you will then lose those runes forever. If, however, you die, drop your runes, and then, let's just get back here just so you can see where we are. So there is the Mistwood Ruins, and it does say that we have Blaidd the Half-Wolf there waiting for us. Anyway, back to my point. Keep getting distracted by things in Mistwood. If you die and drop your runes, and then you put on a sacrificial twig, and you die on your way to get them, your runes will still be there waiting for you, so it gives you another chance. Now, if you're in a rather precarious area, and you have a lot of runes on you, and you don't want to risk the run back at all, then you can swap out the sacrificial twig before you die, and that way you will respawn at the nearest site of grace or Stake of Marika, and you don't have to worry about going to get them at all. So over here we have a developer message. We also have some more demi-humans. Now it is getting on evening, so they are more dangerous, but this message says, open for business. And if we actually follow this path up, you can actually see some smoke coming. We have another nomadic merchant.
Welcome, dear customer. Yes, right this way. Right this way.
I just love that he actually had to put a sign out that he was open for business.
Valued customer. Come, trade in our wandering emporium. Please, buy something. I'm hungry. I've been hungry so long. Please?
So what does he have for us? He sells 5 festering bloody fingers, which attempts an invasion of another player's world. Now, we're going to get these throughout the game, but also you can get one that is not consumed when you use it if you follow a certain person's quest line, but we'll be doing that, of course. You can buy some slivers of meat, some beast liver, lumps of flesh, 3 Trinus lilies, and only 3. So if you're looking to collect them all, here are 3 of them. He does sell 3 smithing stones. You know I love my smithing stones, so I'll be picking those up. He also sells 2 cookbooks, the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 5 and the Armor's Cookbook number 3. 5 is going to get us a Beast Lure pot, and 3 is going to get us Exalted Flesh. We certainly want to know how to get both of these, but we will have to sell some runes to him first. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that, and I think we'll use 15. That should be enough to buy everything we want, I believe. So we're going to buy this. We're going to buy the Armor's Cookbook number 3. He sells hand axe, he sells unlimited arrows. He does sell 10 St. Trina's arrows though. So if you're looking to put enemies to sleep from a distance, which I am, you can pick those up. Once they're gone, they're gone. He sells unlimited bolts, he sells a riveted wooden shield, and he sells the blue gold kite shield. So this does weigh more than our heater shield, but it has some decent damage negation and a fairly good guard boost at 53 for a medium shield. And I think I'd like to have that one. It looks pretty cool too. So we're pretty happy with that loadout. However, we need to talk about the Beast Lore pot, which we have right here, as well as the Exalted Flesh. So the Beast Lore pot, we can make it with beast blood and hefty beast bones, and when you throw this, it will lure beasts towards wherever you throw the Beast Lore pot. The problem is, it actually requires a ritual pot. This is not going to be a crack pot, it's a ritual pot, which we won't get for some time. Now, Exalted Flesh, this is something we can start crafting right now. Rawa fruit, lump of flesh, hefty beast bones, and arteria leaves, which is why I've been going out of my way to collect arteria leaves. And remember, this is going to give us a temporary boost to our physical attack when consumed. Right, let's go deal with these demi-humans. Should we try to do this from horseback? I've actually never tried this. Oh, that's pretty fun. It's actually really effective from horseback. I've never tried this before, and he was unaware, so I actually got a boost there. Okay, I've given it some grief before, but it's kind of fun on Torrent. And good stagger potential. Okay, maybe I've been sleeping on Bestial Sling more than I should have. There we go, we got our flask back. Now we do have an area over to the right that we're going to go and take care of before we approach the fort, the one that Kenneth Haight was talking about. So let's go deal with that. It is going to be surrounded by wolves, as many of these sarcophagus fields are. But it'll be a nice source of runes for us. And if they're not going to bother me, I'm not going to bother them. So we will go deal with the Alpha first. Let's see how long we can actually hold him off for. Actually, we can permanently stun. That was pretty funny. Now, it's not the greatest use of our FP, but let's grab some runes. Golden Rune level 1. Level 2. Another level 2. Golden Rune 1. Golden Rune 1. Not the most profitable one. Golden Rune 3. And another Golden Rune level 1. So if we head around this direction, and I don't need to kill all these wolves, this will bring us to the Road of Sacrifice. This is also that one fort where we got the Starlight Shard the first time around, near Waypoint Ruins where Selen is hiding. But we do have, you can even see the glimmer from here, we do have a Site of Grace, so let's head that way. Do have a few more Guillemots. Even though I'm not two-handing the sword, I should be able to kill them in a single hit, I think. Okay, and any more feet? Any foul feet? No, just flight pinions, that's okay, I need those as well. So let us go deal with this fort, but first I want to talk to the ghost who's waiting down here just off the path before the fort and see what he has to say. The demi-humans wax wroth. Now their mother has been taken. Where are you, Lord Kenneth? The night bedeviled by blood. You know what? I hate to do this just because, well, it's not really worth going out of the way for, but there is a Golden Rune level 1 on the beach, so I would be remiss if I didn't head out to go get it. And you can see it is guarded by this giant land octopus. I really have no interest in killing it. That is kind of the theme of today's episode. Mistwood, the land of creatures you have no need to kill. But let us head to the Site of Grace. We're going to rest up, get everything back. There's a golden skull, though, that we'll grab. Alright, and now that we've rested, we can start to approach, and we're going to see something interesting going on here at the fort. There is a battle between the soldiers inside that has apparently been taken over by a knight bedeviled in blood, but also with the demi-humans that are on the outside. And we'll see that just as we approach these barricades. You can see the oh, almost threw him right at us. The ballista targeting these demi-humans down here. Of course, now this one particular demi-human, both demi-humans, they are now focused on me, which is honestly just unfortunate for them. But now that we've killed them, they don't really have anything else to do other than to focus on us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get up here as quietly as we can, just so you can kind of see. So up there, you do have a mad pumpkinhead, and I mentioned before that there is an easy pumpkinhead to farm in order to get either the helm or the chained flail. Well, it's this one right here. This one will respawn, but only if you haven't liberated the fort. Meaning, up at the top, there is that knight bedeviled by blood. As the ghost had just told us, if we don't kill that knight, we can kill the pumpkinhead, go reset that side of grace, and rinse and repeat to try and farm for it. Now, I'm not going to do that, but hey, if we get lucky, we get lucky. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to run all the way around, nice wide berth around all these soldiers. With this tiny little Erd Tree sprout, we do have a golden seed that we want to grab. And I absolutely love the Pumpkinhead and actually what he does with that big pole that he's carrying. So I'm just going to go and just get some sneak attacks. And that soldier, even though he pretty much just watched it happen, has no idea what just happened to his buddy there. So we can actually just keep picking him off. Of course, that was not picking him off. Pumpkinhead thinks he saw something, apparently did not. Let's grab the golden seed, so that's going to give us another use of our healing flask, our flask of crimson and cerulean tears. And it looks like he is pretty set on just watching us. Now, of course, we're not going to be able to get a backstab on him, but we should be able to get just one more sneak attack. So we have one more soldier on the stair and two more out in front here. Okay, got some gauntlets. Alright, looks like he is finally giving it up, which is great because then we can actually head up these stairs. We should be able to get a sneak attack on this one. This is probably going to be the final one. The one in front is going to detect us. Or at least, he's going to hear us. Let's see what he's chosen to do. Okay, he is on us. That's okay. So we will just back up and do an impaling thrust. Followed by a backstab. Perfect. Okay. And now all we have left is the Pumpkinhead. I'm going to sneak up and I'm going to start with a charged attack. In fact, you know what I think I'll do? If this doesn't put me into heavy, just for the enhanced charge attacks, let's just get up nice and close. Completely whiff. Okay, 216, not too bad. There's the knockdown. And there's the kill. And we got a Sanctuary Stone. A bit unfortunate, but I expect nothing less. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run around and collect some blood roses. So blood roses grow naturally around Fort Kenneth, or Fort Haight rather. You can collect them. I think there's about 4 or 5 of them around. Let's get some more, well, a Guillemot. So let's just do a quick loop around. And I'm sure this is going to end up being a long episode, but there's so much to do and I really don't want to cut this because I think that it does flow fairly nicely all in one area. Okay, get this one Trina's Lily that's hanging out back here. And here is what the blood roses look like, nice and bright. But you can rest and keep collecting these, so you don't have to buy them or farm them necessarily. You can just get them right from around this area. And I know that there are more. I'm probably going to miss some. I'm not going to go out of my way too much. Here's another one right here. Just kidding, that's a Rower fruit. Well, there are more. Rest assured, there are more. But now we have to deal with inside the fort. So the fort isn't too bad to deal with, but you don't want to go in guns a-blazing. Now, remember what the ghost said. The demi-humans wax wroth now that their mother's been taken. Well, this individual right in front of us is that mother. That is a queen demi-human. These barrels up here with the stripes, those are explosive barrels, and that's why I brought a bow with us. So I'm going to switch over here. I'm going to two-hand that, And I am going to fire some fire arrows right here. Take care of that one. I want to get rid of anything that could end up blowing me up. So we'll take care of that. Because there are some enemies that are going to throw fire bombs at us. So just to be sure. You can see that enemy right there. Whoop. Pardon me. Let's see what kind of damage a headshot will deal. That was not a headshot because I'm using a short bow. It's a lot harder because of the drop off, but that's alright. Take care of you. There's another blood rose over there. But we do have some rats to deal with, so tell you what, let's actually just get our Lordsworn Straight Sword back out. And a blood rose here. And yes, we are going to take some damage from the rats. That's okay, I'm not too worried about it. On this corpse, we have 3 more blood roses. Another one here. And another one back here. Heading up the stairs. Carefully now. Grab Smoldering Butterfly. Inside here, we do have a rat and another one of these long-neck humanoid enemies. So we'll deal with you, and then there is... Oh, there's actually 2 of them. I'll tell you what we can do. Let's actually switch back to our Crimson Dagger. I was going to say we should try and actually get some health back from backstabs. Which I think I still... Never mind. It's getting dire here. I'll tell you what. Let's heal up. And then we can still get some health back from backstabs. So I would love it if you would just let me... There we go. Although I don't even think that should have been a backstab, to be honest. But there we go. Oh, I never switched it back. Oh, Blue. This episode is just... It's just one for the books, isn't it? Anyway, we're nearly done with what we have to accomplish, but we get the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook number 6. This is going to allow us to craft all things blood, blood grease, drawstring blood grease, bloodbone arrow, and that are fletched, and bloodbone bolts. Of course, those are going to require blood roses, which is a good thing we've been collecting so many. All of those are going to cause blood buildup, and if we can cause an enemy to hemorrhage, then we are in a very, very good position. Now we are coming up on a very formidable enemy. Not him. He is not formidable. He is not something that we need to worry much about. But what we can do, just because there's no reason to not do this, let's actually aim just above his head. Not that much above his head. I mean, you have to admire the hitbox, right? If nothing else. So there's a glass shard there off of him. So there is the Knight Bedeviled by Blood. And you're going to see just exactly what that means here as soon as we go and approach him. There are a few things you can do. You can put him to sleep. You can use the St. Trina's arrows or the sleep pods, but he doesn't sleep for long. Do not expect him to sleep like the Rune Bear sleep. You can also bait some backstab attacks, which is not a terrible tactic. You can also just use something like Impaling Thrust to continue to stagger him, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. Either way, one thing you may want to do is actually have a Stanching Bolus at the ready, just in case you need to retreat and use one of those to reduce the blood loss. Do have some fire grease at the ready. I also have a flask of Crimson Tears. So let's deal with this nice and quickly. You're not going to sneak up on him. Not as is, by the way. And Impaling Thrust. There's a good hit. Back up. Nearly have it. Alright, never mind. Just finish that fight. I tried to get all fancy with it, but there we go. And from that night, we get the Ash of War Bloody Slash. This is a really, really good early Ash of War. Let's take a look at that here. So Bloody Slash is going to give us the Blood Affinity, which is going to add arcane scaling to a weapon, as well as add bleed buildup to weapons that it works on. Now this works on swords, with colossal weapons being accepted, a Blood Oath skill granted by the Lord of Blood, we've heard him mention before. From a low stance, coat the blade in your own blood, we saw him do this once before, to unleash a rending Blood Slash in a wide arc. Now this will of course cause blood buildup on your opponents, but it does so to you as well. You actually grab the blade, causing yourself some blood buildup, which could cause you to hemorrhage as well. So you need to be careful there. But this was actually improved in patch 1.07, so it is something that is phenomenal early on. And then you can use it on something really lightweight like a short sword or a long sword, and it only costs 6 FP per use, which is pretty impressive. Now, we're almost done in this area. He did drop something for us, but over here we have more blood roses. We also have, the Knight's Greatsword and Godric Knight Greaves. That is a phenomenal get. Probably try and work that into the build at some point. But we want to climb this tower, and then we have 2 things yet. Well, really 3 things that we still need to do in this part before I consider Mistwood complete. Of course, without going down into the Shiafra River well. But the first thing is, up here in this chest, we have the Dectus Medallion left. You can see it is broken in half, so it's something we have to find the other part to. But we join these medallions in order to operate the Grand Lift of Dectus, which connects the Altus Plateau to Liurnia. Now we haven't seen the Altus Plateau or Liurnia, so it's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes out. And the right half is said to reside in Fort Faroth in the Dragon Barrow far to the east. It's actually not too far from the Bestial Sanctum where we met Geraint. But more on that when we get there. Next, we are going to be traveling. That's not how you travel. We're going to be traveling to the Third Church of Marika to go and talk to Kenneth Haight and talk to him about what we've done. And no need to walk there. Let's just hop on Torrent and head right back to him. Grab some Rawa along the way, why not? I love the sound of the boars as you run past them, and either they decide to stand and fight or to run away. It's that fight or flight reflex that you see so commonly in porcine animals.
I've been waiting for you with bated breath. Did you manage to recapture my fort? Oh, excellent news. Just wonderful. And the knight's dead to boot. Well done, my friend. Well done indeed. I knew I was right to trust you. Now, here's your reward, as promised. Go ahead. It's all yours.
Now, a lot of people sleep on the Earthseal Dagger because, well, the base damage is pretty low. It's only 67 to start. And yes, it does have a critical modifier of 110, but even though it does have the unique ability to scale its attack power with faith, it's just not something that's all that practical. However, I argue that it does have some merit. Now, I don't have the ability to use it because my faith is not high enough. I'm missing 2 points, but this has a unique R2. Let's actually pull that out here. That is a very fast attack. Here's the regular light attack. 1 single slash, but in a single R2, you actually attack twice, and if you charge it, you can deal pretty good damage, especially if you combine this with the Axe Talisman, the Spiked Crystal Tear, and a weapon buff. This can do surprisingly good damage for a dagger if you're doing those charged R2 attacks. It can also do alright if you use an Ash of War on it that further increases the faith-based scaling, like the Sacred Blade or the Flame Art Ash of War.
Right then, time for me to head to the fort. I've much to do. First, I'll have to re-establish communication with the demi-humans. What's that look? You don't believe me? Well, under the Erd Tree, commingling with the demi-humans is made possible. Even the vulgar shall not be left behind under the rule of true order. Which is why I, Kenneth Haight, next in line as the rightful ruler of Limgrave, have sworn to uphold it. Just you watch, my friend. Just you watch.
I may not like Kenneth as a character, but I have to say, his intentions are pretty noble. He actually wants to make peace with and establish communications with the demi-humans, creatures who most people, well, they would call creatures, like I just did, and think of them as less than. So, good on him for that.
Ah, yes. I've been meaning to ask, would you like to enter my service? I see bright things in your future, stout warrior. Enter into my service and learn the workings of the Erdtree's true order. And who knows? Perhaps sometime down the line, the grace of gold will return to those tarnished eyes of yours. What say you? A fine accord, is it not?
And just like with pretty much every choice in Elden Ring, it's okay to say no at first and then just come back and agree to it. But for now, I'll just say that, yeah, I'll pledge my service.
Very well indeed. I knew I saw something in you. I shall await you at my fort. We shall hold a ceremony for your knighting there, I think. I see great things ahead of us. We are truly by the Erdtree blessed. Right then, time for me to head to the fort. I've much to do. First, I'll have to re-establish communication with the demi-humans.
And at this point, he will finally move to Fort Haight. So let's head back to Fort Haight West. And we will just ride up there. Now, the denizens of the fort have changed. They are no longer soldiers and rats. This time around, they are the demi-humans, the ones that Kenneth Haight wishes to establish communication with. You can kill them, you can run past them, it is completely up to you. Fortunately, harming them does not impact his attitude towards you whatsoever. Well, not that you're going to be too pleased with what you find when you go up there anyway. So for me, I think I'll just ignore them. If they do decide to follow me all the way up, then I will deal with them if I absolutely have to. But for now, they can just live in peace since that's what he wishes anyway. So let's head up here. There's Kenneth. I'm just going to head back here to see if any demi-humans follow me all the way up. Eventually, they'll stop yelling. This is not going to end well for you. Sorry, Kenneth. I know you've been working tirelessly to help out these folks. Unfortunately, they're in my way.
Ah, you, is it? I suppose you must have seen it by now, yes. The sorry state of my fort. Oh, indeed, it is a foul fate for a land to be without a ruler. One must be found, with haste, and not that awful Godric, but a true and stalwart lord of the proper lineage to take the reins of Limgrave. I'm sorry to have lifted your hopes, but I haven't the authority to raise you to knighthood as things stand. The great Kenneth Haight issues his sincerest apology. But now, I must begin my search post-haste for a true and stalwart lord of the proper lineage to take the reins of Limgrave.
In other words, not just yet, but maybe one day. If you decide that Kenneth has had enough of this mortal coil and you wish to dispatch him, he will drop 500 runes and a golden seed, which I still need to remember to turn into another flask. But you can also just get that by following his questline, which is what we'll do. Now, we're still not done. Now, as I mentioned, Kale is going to have some unique dialogue because we have heard the howling of Blaidd the Half-Wolf. Now, real quick, soapbox time. Why does Kale have different dialogue and how are we supposed to know that? I have no idea. I cannot think of a single reason why he would suddenly have knowledge about the howling in Mistwood, other than, hey, news travels fast, and of course he has a network of nomadic merchants, but you're just meant to really stumble on this one. But after you've heard the howling...
Wait. Well, you're back. The howl of a wolf. In the Mistwood. I suppose he must still be skulking about. I know. Why not meet him for yourself? Next time you hear the wolf's howl, make this signal right under the source. Oh, don't fret. There is nothing to fear. I just have an inkling the two of you might hit it off.
And he gives us the finger snap.
Goodbye for now.
A gesture that actually has some utility. So now, let's head back to Mistwood and we'll just start at the Fort Haight. Actually, no. We'll start at the Mistwood outskirts. We can drop a marker just to make it a little bit easier for us to see, so we can beeline straight there. I do love that the rune bears can actually take out trees that are just in their way. Hopefully not get the attention of any of these enemies. So far, so good. And there we have it. There is our marker. There is Blaidd sitting up top there, so let's get the finger snap gesture. And using that near Blaidd causes him to jump down, and boy is he intimidating. Blaidd, I'm right here.
Who goes there? Kale sent you, did he? Never the bloody busybody. Maybe to him you don't seem so strange. The name's Blaidd. I'm looking for a man who goes by Darrowell. He fled somewhere nearby. Or so I've heard. Come tell me if you find him before I do. I can offer you ample reward. Darrowell is nothing but a traitor, and in need of a fitting end to his tale.
He is looking for someone named Darrowell, which we haven't heard the name of, but we actually have stumbled upon his resting location, or his current location. We're going to go there momentarily. Now, I do not recommend you attack Blaidd for a number of reasons. He's just a great character, but also he is very, very difficult to take on at this level. But if you do so, you will get runes between about 1,000 and 2,500 depending on what stage of his quest you're in. Obviously, this early we'd just get a low amount. We'd also get his entire armor set and the Royal Greatsword, which is what he's wielding right there. But if you want to look for Darrowell, and again, this is something you're pretty much just meant to stumble on, over here at the Forlorn Hound Evergaol, this is where we can find him, and that's where we're going next. Now, my recommendation is to let Blaidd do all the work, because as we enter the Evergaol, we will actually see a summon sign that will allow us to bring him into our world to fight Darrowell for us. We can do it ourselves, and we can still continue on Blaidd's questline, but because this is such, in my opinion, an integral part of his questline, I see nothing wrong with summoning him to assist. Not that I ever see anything wrong with using someone to assist. But let's examine the seal and let's head inside our very first Evergaol. If you approach that glowing marker straight ahead, then the boss fight is going to commence. However, if we go over to this golden summon sign, there is Blaidd the Half-Wolf. And one thing we can do is actually simply just try and heal Blaidd during this fight.
Rotting in a cell is no true justice. No. This is where it ends for you.
So let's get Darrowell to summon. There he is. Bloodhound Knight Darrowell. I'm afraid that that's not actually healing Blaidd. Oh, but he did heal himself, which is good. He does have a couple of flasks available. Okay, I don't think we can actually heal him with that. I should have tested that. But we definitely need to help out some. Thing is, we don't want to get too involved in the fight. Oh, I am extremely heavy. So let's let him get the attention pulled off of us again. Good hit. Run away. Impaling thrust, and the finish. Beautiful. Good fight, Blaidd. And we get the Bloodhound's Fang, everyone's favorite early game weapon. Let's head back to our world, and we'll take a look at it. Before we go and talk to Blaidd over there, let's take a look at this amazing new weapon, the Bloodhound's Fang. Now it does require 18 strength, which means we can two-hand it. We just can't single-hand it just yet. It takes 17 strength, and it has a unique Ash of War called Bloodhound's Finesse. Slash upwards with the Bloodhound's Fang, using the momentum of the strike to perform a backward somersault and gain some distance from foes. You can follow it up with a strong attack to perform the Bloodhound Step attack. It also causes blood buildup. Let's see what this looks like in action. So here are some heavy attacks. Pretty cool follow-up. And then the Bloodhound's Finesse. So there's the Finesse itself. And there it is with the follow-up. Incredibly devastating because you attack them, you get out of their way, and then you quickly jump forward in a flash of dust and hit them again with a charge attack. An extremely powerful early weapon with some pretty, well, minimal stats in order to wield it.
Right. There you are. Had to work for it, but it's done. Don't say I'm not a man of my word. Here's your prize.
And we get a Somber Smithing Stone level 2.
Oh yes. I should say, if you venture north to Raya Lucaria and come across a venerable blacksmith who's a little on the large side, tell him I sent you, and he'll be sure to treat you right. I owe you one, I reckon. That's enough chit-chat for now. It's time we parted ways.
We'll be talking to Blaidd quite a bit throughout this playthrough, but not for some time. And of course we have to go meet his very large venerable blacksmith friend, as he called him. But that is finally going to do it for this episode of Everything Possible in Elden Ring, and I hope you learned something, and if you did, let me know what you learned down in the comments, or if you have a better strategy for the Rune Bears, or for the Darwill fight, or for just anything that I did very poorly today. Let me know that too, so we can all keep learning. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.